I am honored to turn the microphone over to Supervisor Lindsey Horvath.
Good morning, everyone. It is truly a pleasure to be here this morning. Thank you all for the work that you have done to get us to this pivotal moment. And thanks to everyone who has been supporting this work. It is everything I had hoped it would be and more. I first want to thank Matt, our chair, who took this on. I know when I called him, he said, well, what's really going to be entailed? I said, I think you all get to decide exactly what it needs to be. And we want it to be everything that it needs to be and not one thing more. And we're not going to get in your way. This is your commission, not mine. This is really about how do we have all of the expertise that we can harness from throughout the Los Angeles region and bring it to bear for our residents. So thank you, Matt, for being the fearless leader in that. I also want to thank our former state senator, Fran Pavley, for her fearless and tireless leadership. I tease her that it's always nice to have Mother Nature present, and I think she does really embody that. And I thank all of our Blue Ribbon commissioners who volunteered their time. I know each of you in your own work, for all of the reasons we asked you to be at this table, are very busy, and yet you found time to come together and share your expertise for this purpose, and I really thank you for that. And it wouldn't have come together without the true partnership of UCLA. And I especially want to thank UCLA Executive Vice Chancellor and Provost Darnell Hunt for being here with us today, Chancellor Julio Frenk for UCLA's support and partnership, everyone who has been involved in this work. I see some UCLA faces out here as well. And so the partnership of UCLA, the crown jewel of the 3rd District, I like to say, has really helped to bring this work to life. So thank you very, very much. I attended Chancellor Frenk's inauguration as UCLA's 7th chancellor a couple weeks ago. It was incredibly inspiring at Royce Hall, and he challenged all of us to be bold. And in this, I think we are doing exactly that. A special thank you to Professor Meg Mullen from UCLA, who has been our faculty lead and rose to the chancellor's call with this impressive report we're discussing today. So thank you very, very much. And thank you to the California Community Foundation for your financial support for making today possible and all of this work possible. And of course, to Gensler for being the consummate hosts in this beautiful space and welcoming us here this morning. I also want to acknowledge, because it goes without saying, we wouldn't be here today without the courage and bravery of our Los Angeles County Fire Department, and we have many of our department represented here today. So I want to acknowledge you and thank you for how you have helped to make sure that we are here today. And I know that we also have county departments represented here. Thank you all for your partnership. It truly takes a village to make this work come to life. And about 3 months ago, we launched this effort. It was a different time. Hard to believe that in just 3 months, it's so much of the world can change. But we were here early in our recovery from the worst natural disaster to ever hit Los Angeles County. Our historic debris removal program with the Army Corps of Engineers had barely just begun. Hard to think about now that we're so far along in this process. But in just a couple weeks, they will have completed the largest debris removal program in American history, a year ahead of their originally projected timeline. A year ahead. So back in those first early moments of February 2025, we were just starting to imagine what a rebuild at this scale would look like. And I learned, as I've shared with some of you, that when I came into office, FEMA has designated my district, the 3rd District, the most disaster-prone district of any county in the entire country. So we know the bar was very low in terms of expectation and how we would protect people. And of course, we had gotten quickly to work on emergency preparedness with each of our communities. Many of our communities take this to heart, and it is now a way of life for so many community members. But I distinctly remember in one conversation, a former council member from Malibu sharing that he had lost property in the Woolsey fire. He now had lost property again in the Palisades fire. He said, I don't want to be rebuilding every couple of years as a result of these fires. I really want us to take the time and the focus to make sure that we're doing all we can in a recovery and a rebuild, to do so with the reality that this is going to keep coming. So how do we plan for it? How do we build for it? And how do we prepare our communities for it? And some of the homes that were lost in January were destroyed for the second time in a decade. It is the understatement of the century that we have to move with urgency on the cleanup, on the recovery, and the support that our residents and businesses need to rebuild their lives. And this work isn't just about getting people back into their homes, it's helping to rebuild whole communities, because it's not enough for somebody to have a home that's standing. They have to have a grocery store to go to, and places of worship, and community centers, and all of the things that elevate our quality of life. And so while I am proud of the work that the county has done and the role that we have played to get us to the stage we're at today, I know there's no time for celebration until we do bring those communities back to life. Even in the most recent memory of the Woolsey fire in our district, I knew we had never experienced anything like the Palisades and Eaton fires. And so many of our civic, our business, nonprofit, and community leaders have reached out both to me and my team with recommendations on how to rebuild, from innovative strategies that keep homes safe from fire, with new financial tools and public-private partnerships, various strategies to incorporate sustainability into a cost-effective recovery. And we also have learned through this commission's work, we've now sort of been repeating the refrain that insurability is future affordability. And so that is a critical component. How do we bring the insurance market back into our Southern California region? And how do we leverage that for an affordable recovery and affordable future that is also sustainable and fire safe? We worked around the clock, met with as many people as we possibly could, and we continue to bring an open mind to the great ideas that are out there being suggested and have informed the work that you'll hear about today. Rather than try to answer every question in-house, because we know that government doesn't always have all of the answers, but we do have the ability to convene the expertise that can help us get to those answers. And we're even working beyond this work in the commission. I know some are gathered here today are working with us in community spaces to bring forward all different kinds of solutions to how we think about recovery. And so we need to keep open minds and keep this conversation going. But in order for us to have that expertise, we convened the Blue Ribbon Commission on Climate Action and Fire Safe Recovery. These commissioners, as I mentioned, already very busy leaders in their own fields, volunteered countless hours to consider best practices and vet recommendations to guide our recovery. From building science to insurance markets to energy and water infrastructure to finance and disaster preparedness, these leaders all bring unique perspectives to the table. And when I spoke with Councilmember Tracy Park about the fact that we were convening this, she immediately said, you know, this can't just be an academic exercise. We don't need another white paper. We don't want something that just sort of sits on a shelf and collects dust. How are we going to make sure that this is actionable, not only for us at a governmental level, because we have big systems we are in control of and big policy decisions that we need to make as a result, but how is it going to be actionable for each and every resident who has been impacted by these fires? That will be the truth in how and whether this report actually delivers what we're looking for. And we even had, to that end, we had 3 commissioners directly impacted by the fires who channeled their tragedy into these recommendations to help us prevent this from ever happening again. And I think this is really the strength of Los Angeles, people who have lost so much in your own right, still stepping up, still giving of yourselves, and showing what it means to truly be Los Angeles. Thank you for the work that you are doing. And with the support from Chancellor Frenk in UCLA, the leadership from our professor Meg Mullen, and so many others, there was a curated list of vetted academic experts from across the campus and across California to inform our commission's work. They attended dozens of community meetings, held focus groups. I don't want to see your email inboxes because I know a lot of people have been reaching out to you, but you did this work to ensure that voices of the community are front and center in the recommendations that are being presented. And your work is fully independent. We wanted to make sure you had the resources you needed. This is not the work of my district. This is the work of leaders throughout Los Angeles County's region to make sure that this is truly a project for the entire region. It was designed to provide advice not just to LA County, but to all decision makers, from local government decision makers to those in Sacramento, how to guide a resilient and fire safe recovery. It goes without saying that we have experienced unprecedented tragedy, but the scale of destruction provides an opportunity to rethink how we rebuild to match the 21st century realities that we face, particularly climate change. Most of our nation is experiencing a heat wave today, and that weather whiplash contributed to devastating impacts of the January wildfires. Our guiding force in our rebuild has to be recognizing this reality, ensuring the neighborhoods we rebuild do not face this level of destruction ever again. And we must rebuild with fire safety in mind, not only because we want to protect our communities from this kind of devastation, we also want to protect our firefighters from having to experience this kind of devastation in the way that they have. So we must ensure our homes are insurable to remain affordable to legacy residents. We must have a much more resilient energy system where infrastructure is hardened and undergrounded, but also where homes rely on batteries and solar panels to save residents money and protect communities from power outages. I know former Mayor, Councilmember Doug Stewart was really at the helm when these fires broke out. And I know as you were getting those calls, the weight that it had on your heart. I know we have Councilmember Halen Conrad, as well as our mayor of Malibu is here, and our city manager of Malibu is here. And so hearing the hands-on experience, the very firsthand experience of what it was like to be in Malibu when you got an evacuation alert and you didn't have lights or electricity or maybe internet, really thinking about how do we avoid that kind of a situation ever again in the future. All of our infrastructure has to be hardened. Our water infrastructure has to be more resilient and, where possible, decentralized so we can achieve long-term water resiliency and better equip our first responders. We've already begun some of this work at the Board of Supervisors, and one idea that I know has been discussed, I already read about it in the LA Times today, is this centralized rebuilding authority. We're talking about it. We're also talking about it with our state and local partners, so we make sure that we're coordinated in how we proceed. Like many things that can happen in Los Angeles, we don't need 14 new rebuild authorities. The whole point of this is how do we bring it together and work together to leverage that scale in our recovery for the benefit of everyone. You have my commitment that I will be a champion of many more of the ideas that you will hear about this morning. So once again, thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you're investing. And thank you for the work that you're doing to make sure that we do have a fire-safe, a climate-resilient recovery. I look forward to bringing these ideas to life in partnership with you and bringing the lessons learned from all of our communities throughout Los Angeles County. So we not only help the communities that are directly in the fire burn footprint areas, but also our broader region that has been built out, but is also at risk if we don't think about it. So this rebuild has to be stronger, safer, and more resilient for all of us. Thank you once again.